Hi guys, bit of an update on the T-34. It's been a little while, but I've sort of done little bits and pieces, and then we've had the Easter holiday break where I've spent a bit of time with my son and had a little bit of a holiday with him, and then I've come back and essentially spent a week recovering from the holiday because we had quite a hectic time running around and what have you. So I'm just kind of getting back into it now. It's a Sunday morning and I'm sitting here doing little bits and pieces. Did a couple of little bits on this last night, and I'm currently doing this while watching Fox Model Making Guru, his Space Maureen live stream. For anybody who's familiar with the Boom Hut and Fox from the Monday night's live stream, he models with Skipper Ted and Chris Gross Models, which is very good, very entertaining, especially as they often go off topic and talk about all kinds of things, and often reminiscing about cool things from the 80s and such like. So it's all good fun. Recommend that if you're looking for live streams to watch. That's every Monday. Right, so anyway, the model, where are we at? I have assembled a good deal of the kit, and we've got the road wheels all sort of fastened together and on sticks in preparation for painting, as you see down here. We've got things like the gun breech here, and we've got the turret, whoops, that I'm throwing away. Ooh, that's not a good start. Let's try that again. We've got the turret, the mantlet and cannon, which has all gone together quite nicely and has been painted inside white. And so that once I've got the breech painted up, I can then fit the lower plate and get the rest of that finished. There's a couple of handles like this one on the back. This little tiny fragile thing, I've already snapped 2 or 3 of these because they're so thin, it's ridiculous. So there's a couple of those to go on the sides here, and I'm leaving those until I've got all of the turret assembly together, because I just know that I'm going to end up snapping them off and losing bits if I try and fit them now, and I'll end up snapping them before I've finished painting up the turret to go onto the hull over here. So they're all on sticks ready to be painted. I'm essentially waiting to paint all of this until I have buttoned up the upper and lower hull sections. Now, as you can see down here, I'll bring this up and I'll focus in. What we've got here is the very basic interior. And as you can see, I've painted the front half white and the rear half black. That's just so it's not so glaringly obvious when this is on and the turret's in place, that because I didn't want it being sort of light and visible through this driver's hatch, which is going to be open. Painting that bit black will make it, will sort of separate it from the front crew section, as it were, because obviously there's no engine detail. And this is the interior in as much as what you get in the kit, but it's actually quite nice because most armour kits, you don't get any interior at all. You get your bathtub base, your upper hull, and you sandwich them together. And if you want to leave any hatches open or anything, you're really kind of stuck unless you buy an interior set or you're very, very good at scratch building. So in this you get enough of an interior set so that when you put this on and you leave the driver's hatch open, like so, like it's going to be, then you can sort of see the seats and the steering tillers. And yeah, sure, if you have a good peek in there, you could tell that there's bits missing. But on the whole, it's nice that they added these in. I need to brush paint a little bit on the steering tillers and the handles, and then I'll be able to button up the upper and lower sections. And you can see on there I've added the sort of the boxes and the spare track links, and flipping one right way up to show the very, very nicely moulded waffle pattern. Now I find this a bit bizarre. They really mould the really nice detailed waffle pattern on here, and then in the instructions it tells you to glue them face down onto the tank, so you're only seeing the rear with the drive horns. Now obviously the ones with the drive horns you can't put the other way around for obvious reasons, but these flat ones you can, and I thought it just seems a real shame to lose that, so I flipped one of them up that way and left the other one round the way as per the instructions. So we've popped that down there. Up here we've just added the relevant rails and such, same kind of thing as you can see there. A couple of those snapped which I had to re-glue, real nuisance, very, very fragile. And then the gun portion at the front, all these little bits here, the tow hook attachment points and everything, these are all separate, and we've put these boxes on the back with next to the exhaust stacks, and I've left these louvers slightly open, and you'll notice there's something missing from the back, and that something is this bit here. And the reason for that is that I want to find a mesh material. I've actually cut out the moulded in mesh thing, which I was originally just going to put a black wash on to bring that out, but I didn't think it looked particularly good, so I've cut that out. What I want to do is find a mesh material that I can stick to the inside, and maybe even simulate a little bit of a sort of mashed in dented appearance on one or two of the panels. So I've left this open so that I can paint this before I go ahead and glue this over it, because I'm hoping that these ventilation flaps will be at least slightly visible through the mesh material. If not, it's all part of a learning curve, I guess. So and as you can see there, I've left the ventilation flaps very slightly open, as I have done also with these, but you can't really see that through. Well, you can just if you sort of shine a light through, but they're not going to be visible, unfortunately. But it seemed like a good idea at the time. You'll notice we've got a different coloured handle on this little hatch, this access hatch for the engine here. I had to scratch build that because the original one was eaten by the carpet monster and will probably not show up again until about a week after I've completed this kit and put it on the shelf for display, as is usually the case. So yes, quite a few little fiddly bits to stick onto this, quite a few that have pinged off and I've had to go searching for on my hands and knees, but so far managed to find most of them, barring this handle here. So that's where we're at with that. Oh, and of course the underside has been painted to match this one. So we'll focus back down here. That's where we're at this current point, and as I say, it's not so much that this has been a slow process. It's more a case of I've had a little bit of a break in between for the holidays, spent some time with my son, and then after coming back, recovering, because when I see my son I tend to go down south, catch up with family and friends, and then it's a bit of a hectic week running around and a very, very long drive back. So then I've got to drive back, drop him off, and all in all it's about a 10 or 12 hour drive, which is very tiring, and then you throw yourself back into work and you just basically spend the week letting your body catch up with you, as it were. So the next step, once I've painted up these steering tillers and got the top and bottom glued together, is going to be giving the whole thing a base coat, because I want to once again try the hairspray chipping technique. I've tried it once before, unsuccessfully. I think the problem that I had before when I tried it was because I left the upper acrylic layer too long before I started chipping it. Having watched a few more tutorials and read a bit more about that, the general consensus seems to be you need to start chipping it as soon as that top acrylic layer is dry enough to touch, which with Tamiya, as you know, is not very long at all. Now what I did previously when I tried it is I left it overnight, and it would not chip no matter what I throw at it, which is bloody annoying when you consider sometimes you leave something to dry overnight, put a piece of masking tape on, paint a line, peel the masking tape, and it lifts the acrylic paint away. So I'm going to try that again, and I just want to get a few chips on sort of some of the edges that would have been worn, that would be walked on as a crew climb on and off, that kind of thing. And what I'm going to use as a base coat, because I don't have a Tamiya colour that's particularly suitable, is this Humbrol enamel colour, and it's matte colour number 98, which is dark chocolate brown or something along those lines, I think it says, and it should make a really nice base coat. I don't want to go with the typical German, what do they call it now? The damn, the name will come to me in a moment, but I'm sure that you armour builders will know what I'm referring to, the sort of the red-brown primer, zinc oxide primer, something like that. I didn't want to go particularly with that. I've done a bit of Googling around to see what they would have used on T-34s, and it seems a little bit of an inconclusive thing. Some say they would have used the same kind of primers as the German tanks did, which is the sort of red oxide. That's the word I'm looking for, red oxide primer and what have you. Some say they would have used a darker one. Some say they wouldn't have used any at all. They'd have just slapped whatever they had on the tank. And I'm sure, being Russians and needing to get the numbers of tanks out quick, sharp, and build up the numbers, they would have done whatever they would have needed to have done in the circumstances. So I'm going to use a bit of creative license, and I'm just going to use a dark brown because I think that will contrast quite nicely as a chipping colour. I'm going to do the same with the road wheels as I am with all the body, the exterior of the turret and what have you, and then I'm going to, once that's cured, I'm going to spray hairspray on, but not all of it, just sort of edges and that kind of thing. And then I'm going to go with a mix of a couple of Tamiya colours to try and get a variance on the green. So it's a bit paler than your olive drab, and I think the mix is XF4, which is a sort of yellow green, and olive drab, which I don't remember the XF code for off the top of my head. And it gives a slightly paler version of olive drab, and hopefully what I'm going to do is do a bit of a sort of post shading thing with that, and then a bit of chipping of the edges. So fingers crossed that's going to go as planned. I think what I'm going to do is go with a mix of those colours to get the colour I need, and then lighten it a little more and do a little bit of post shading, and hopefully that will give a nice result, and then start chipping at the edges to see what we get there. The next thing we're going to be looking at once that's all together and I've got the base coat on here is getting the tracks together, because I will probably want to paint the tracks in the same kind of chipping colour, but I don't know whether I'm going to end up waiting until they're fitted to the tank or paint them before, because I don't know how flexible this will be on the rubber band tracks. So we'll see how that goes. And there are a couple of other little bits to paint for the interior which I'd forgotten about. One being this which goes on the exterior, which is a roll of some description, so that's not particularly desperate with regards to being done. But the other one, of course, is the machine gun, which needs to go into the gunner's position to the right of the driver, and I need to paint that before I go ahead and glue it in the tank before I connect the upper and lower halves of the tank. So far I'm really liking this kit. The fit is very good for something that doesn't have a massive amount of detail. There actually seems to be an awful lot of parts, but hopefully that should show when it's all sort of painted and come together a little bit, and I think it should look pretty good. I'm quite enjoying this one so far, and this is the first tank that I've really approached in a proper manner with regards to wanting to make a decent version of it, because the Panther that I built previously was the first tank I'd ever built, and I just really sort of threw that together and slapped some paint on, and it doesn't look bad. But I'd like to weather this one a little bit, but not excessively. I don't want it to be caked in mud and filthy. I'm thinking more like dusty, like you would have seen in initial sort of production as it rolled out, after a little bit of use, but before it really got hurled into the thick muddy stuff. Now, I'm not so bothered about the technical accuracy and history of sort of Battle of Kursk and all that kind of thing, so there might be some of you out there saying, oh come on, it's an early T-34, it would have gone straight into battle, it would be caked or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm just going to kind of go ahead, and I want to try a relatively subtle weathering, so it looks used but not sort of caked in mud, because I don't particularly want to try that particular style at the moment, and I'm no doubt at some point in the future I will. But that's where we are just now with the T-34 76 early 1943 production from ICM. I have so far been using the Badger Renegade Velocity, which I am now liking a lot since I've sorted out the problems with it, and I'll be putting up a little review video of that. And unfortunately, when it arrived, it had the wrong nozzle. It had too large of a nozzle, and it had what I thought was the wrong needle, which turns out to be kind of the wrong needle, as in it was the wrong needle for that particular brush, or it's not the one that you would expect to see on it, but by the same token it was the correct size. Now the seller, it turned out, was a really top-notch guy, and we discussed everything. He sourced me the correct replacement nozzle, and once that was received and fitted, the airbrush has worked very, very well indeed. So I'm really pleased with that, and what I would like to do really is use that to do this whole build, although I suspect I'm going to wind up using my Iwata with the 0.5 nozzle for the main body and underside area of the tank. I think just because it will be better at the large area coverage, but we'll see how that goes. So that's where we're at just now. Join us for the next update when the tank body should be together, and we should be at a point where I'm either ready to apply this nice dark chocolatey brown base coat, or it should already be applied, and I should be at a stage where I'm putting the hairspray layer on. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.